back to Things I'll Take It From Here, the podcast where we deep dive into film, TV, and books, breaking down the stories that made us feel something. Today we're diving into episode 9 of The Summer I Turned Pretty season 3, with the wedding officially called off, Belly's Paris adventure taking some wild turns, and the Fisher boys trying to pick up the pieces. This episode gave us a mix of emotional fallout and personal resets. Also, it gave us the best AirTag ad of all time. So let's break it down. We open with Belly making her way to Paris. She sees Conrad at the airport. It's a huge moment, but instead of approaching him, she boards her flight. Once in Paris, her plans immediately unravel. Her spot in the study abroad program is gone, and she's left basically as a stranded tourist. And then it gets worse. Her backpack, which has her passport, the engagement ring, is stolen. Belly calling the ring valuable and priceless was kind of funny to me because, girl, if you were to pawn this ring, all you could get was an espresso shot or a croissant. Please be for real. Her using the AirTag Steven got for her at her bridal shower to find a ring she got from a guy she didn't marry is the type of unhingedness I really love about this show. Now, speaking of unhinged, Belly ends up chasing the guy who stole her bag to like this Paris nightclub, and to even get inside, she pretends to be the girlfriend of a girl, I think her name was Gemma, who is being harassed by a man who can't take no for an answer, which typical. I think a lot of us have been in this situation. With Gemma's help though, Belly manages to confront the thief and get her backpack back. And she kicked that man down, and I was like, this is the Belly I want to see. At the end of the episode, we see Belly standing in front of the scaffolding at Notre Dame, and she makes the choice that she's staying in Paris. And her line about rebuilding being possible feels like a metaphor for her own life. Side note, when Belly spills her whole last 24 hours to strangers in Paris, it instantly reminded me of when I found out my ex had a fiance and a child in upstate New York. So I went out to a bar to kind of just dance it off, you know, like a girl would, and I ended up crying in a bathroom, and a group of girls that I didn't even know came up to me and they like fixed my makeup and they gave me advice and they made me feel honestly like I could breathe again because this was such a dramatic time in my life. Sometimes the people I think who hold you up in your lowest moments can sometimes be complete strangers. And I think that's what this group was for Belly. And I think had they not been there, would she have made that decision to stay in Paris? I don't know. But I really love seeing that kind of support and encouragement from these strangers to her. And while we see that support play out in Paris, back at Cousins Beach, the dynamic is a little bit different. So Jeremiah is not handling the canceled wedding well. He's drinking with his friends and Denise is around, and Taylor and Steven step in to check on him. Now, the fandom is kind of split on this. Some people think it's weird that Belly's best friend and brother are the ones helping Jeremiah pick up the pieces, so to speak, while others feel like it makes sense because they're also close to Jeremiah. I could kind of see both sides, especially since Belly wasn't really talking to any of them. So I can see why it made sense for them to be there for Jeremiah. But then I'm also like, would I want my friend to be helping my ex? I don't know. The whole situation is messy. But for me, when Conrad also tried to step in after the wedding fell apart, it kind of felt like everyone was being a little mean to him. But like Taylor said, Conrad is only 50% responsible for this situation. And honestly, I agree with Adam that maybe it's better if Jeremiah leans on his other loved ones right now because the whole thing is messy. But as one love triangle crumbled, another one finally came to a close. And yes, I'm talking about Steven and Taylor. After dancing around each other for what, 2.5 seasons, they share a kiss and decide to just go for it. It's easily one of the brighter spots of this episode, though I do think it's funny as, you know, their closest friends and family are having the craziest fallout and dramatic emotional arc. They're just kind of falling in love and drinking champagne and just happy and cuddling as all of this chaos unfolds. But you know what? I expect nothing less from Steven and Taylor. Oh, side note, Taylor finally dropping the Cabo tea to Steven. I'm so happy that finally happened, but Steven could have been more mad. Like, that's my feedback. He could do better. He could be angrier. We'll see what happens in in the next episode. But I do think Steven getting that context of the Cabo thing will give him a better understanding outside of Conrad of why this wedding shouldn't have happened. Because I feel like he's putting the blame for everything falling apart on Conrad. And I think with this Cabo tea dropping, now he'll have a more well-rounded view of why this wedding shouldn't have happened in the first place. And speaking of Conrad, his heart-to-heart with Adam honestly shocked me. I don't like giving Adam credit. As we know, this is an Adam Fisher hate account, but that conversation was surprisingly honest. It was about family fractures and loss, and I thought it was a pivotal moment for both of them. And later when Adam hugs Jeremiah, considering how awful he is as a father to him, that moment felt really huge and bittersweet, but huge. It's really weird that after everything his dad has put him through, that he could hug his dad, but when Laurel comes to check on him, he yells at her and slams the door in her face. Like, what has Laurel done? I don't know. And speaking of Laurel and Adam, watching that scene between them in episode 9, now that we know they dated in the books, that whole interaction kind of feels flirty. And I can't unsee it. If you want to check out the clip I'm talking about that I feel like it was a little bit flirty, you can head over to my Instagram and TikTok at Take It From Here Pod. I have it posted on there, and tell me you don't think it was a little flirty. Now I need to address something that I said on social media. I didn't like the way Jeremiah slammed the door in Laurel's face, and social media came for me hard. Someone even sent me a death threat. Look, you can ride for your fave, but that's crossing a line. Jeremiah is absolutely allowed to be hurt and angry, but slamming a door in your aunt, or I don't know if she's more of a godmother figure for them, just isn't okay. And it's like, again, you're hugging your dad who has been horrible to you your whole life, and then you're slamming a door in Laurel's face. People on the team Jeremiah side keep saying Laurel deserved it because she didn't want the wedding to happen, or because she only showed up because of Conrad. Let's be clear, Laurel didn't oppose the wedding out of spite. She asked them to wait until after they finish school, or at least consider living together before rushing into a marriage in 6 weeks. That's not unreasonable. And when she decided to go to the wedding, it wasn't because of Conrad. It was because she didn't want to lose her daughter, which she literally says in this episode to Adam. So Team Jeremiah folks, you can support your guy without rewriting what actually happened. Jeremiah was acting out this episode, especially in that phone call with Belly, and it's okay to admit that. Like, these characters are flawed. Nobody is perfect. Which brings us to that phone call. So Belly eventually calls Jeremiah from Paris to tell him she's not coming back. And his response is explosive. He tells her never to call him again. You could really feel his heartbreak hardening into anger here. I can give him some grace. This was all fresh, but I can still not like how he behaved without people sending me death threats. Like, y'all really need to simmer down. And then the episode ends with Jeremiah receiving a wedding gift that was a painting that Susanna had made. And instead of gratitude, which I guess, like, why would you have gratitude about that? You didn't even have the wedding, I get it. But him lashing out and just really rubbing in Conrad's face that Belly called him and not Conrad is just another example of Jeremiah and Belly's relationship was always kind of to spite Conrad. And I think that was for both of them, right? Like, Jeremiah wanted to feel chosen. He wanted to feel first in comparison to his brother. And then Belly just wanted to use Jeremiah to get over Conrad. Now, I know episode 9 might have felt slow for some viewers. A lot of people have been calling it filler. But if you look closely, it really is full of a lot of Easter eggs that tie back to the books, the character arcs, and even Jenny Han's bigger storytelling style. So let's break that down and the details you might have missed. So let's start with Benito. He's the guy with the camera in the trailer, and in the third book, We'll Always Have Summer, Belly writes about a Spanish guy named Benito. He wears leather pants, he has a scooter, like, he's edgy, it's a whole thing. And Conrad actually gets jealous just hearing about him. The show brings Benito in Paris as a flesh and blood character, and it's a blink and you'll miss it nod, but it's a real treat for people who Love the books. Then there's the Red Sox. So when Conrad learns the wedding is off, a Sox player is hitting a home run on the TV above him. And in the airport scene with Belly, there's a Red Sox backpack right behind her. It's subtle, but it works on two levels as a nod to Chris Briney's real life fandom. He's the actor who plays Conrad. And as a quiet metaphor for Conrad kind of staying in the game, right? Like he's still at play. And then the wedding gift that Conrad gives Jeremiah turns out to be a painting of Jeremiah and Belly as children on the beach. I wonder if that's something she painted right before she passed away, or if that's something she had painted from when they were younger. Regardless, I thought it was a nice little Easter egg and a way to bring Susanna back into this episode. So in Paris, Belly introduces herself as Isabel instead of Belly, which thank God. I don't know about y'all, but I really don't like the name Belly. So I'm glad she's going by Isabel in this new chapter of her life. And I think it was a clear sign that she's trying on a new identity. And also the cafe that she visits is named, I think, Les Descartes. I think it's a nod to the philosopher, you know, the one that said, I think, therefore I am. I think that whole theme of her arc here is redefining who she is outside of the Fisher Boys. And I have a question. Do you guys think that that's the cafe that Lacey was talking about that she went to, I think, in episode 1 or 2 or whatever, where she was talking to Belly in the frat house at the party, and she was telling her how she went to this cafe when she was doing her study abroad in Paris? Do we think this is the cafe? I think this is the cafe, because she went to this cafe immediately after she had went to the school, and Lacey had said the cafe was by the school. I think that's a little Easter egg there too. Another Easter egg I found, the nightclub password, I think was Le Jetée, something like that. When I looked it up, it means the pier. And I think that's supposed to echo Cousins Beach's iconic pier. But it's also the title of a 1962 French short film about memory, time, and loss. If Jenny Han put this in as an Easter egg, I think it could be a layered thing, like the writers winking at us that this show is about more than just a messy love triangle. And finally, let's talk about the music. So Belly's Paris arrival is scored with You're on Your Own, Kid, which underlines her solo chapter perfectly. And the episode closes with Taylor Swift's How Did It End, pulling together Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah's storylines as they all hit breaking points. So even if episode 9 felt like filler to some fans, the Easter eggs make it clear this episode is about symbolism, which is rebuilding identity and memory, and Jenny Han is reminding us to pay attention to those details because they're always doing double duty. So let's get into some theories and predictions. On my socials, I dropped an Easter egg breakdown of the trailer, and some of what I suspected was spot on. If you haven't seen it, head over to my Instagram at Take It From Here Pod to check it out. I'm going to be making a part 2 pretty soon, but in that video, I talk about the Paris address on Conrad's letter to Belly. When I looked up that neighborhood, it's actually known for artists, young people, and students, and people looking for more affordable housing. And when Belly sat down at that table in episode 9, the people she was talking with, a couple of them mentioned that they were artists, and I wonder if one of them will become her roommate, because in the trailer, it did look like one of the letters she was looking at that it was addressed to her roommate or someone else that could have been living with her. So I do wonder if she ends up moving in with one of those people, and that's why they're kind of in this area, because they're an artist. And I actually think I'm really gonna like this group for her. I think making friends in your 20s is rough, but those bonds can really end up being some of the strongest you carry. It's such a pivotal time of self-discovery. Now, as for my predictions, I think we're gonna see Belly get that job at the cinema, the one we see her cleaning in during the trailer, and start settling into her Paris life. I also think we're heading toward a wedding, but not the one people are expecting. I don't think it's Belly and Conrad's. My money is either on Laurel and John or Steven and Taylor. That wedding could be the event that brings everyone back together. And those so-called leaks of the Fisher brothers in Paris, I think they're fake, y'all. I think they are fake. I think they were alternate endings filmed to keep the mystery alive. Honestly, there's a good chance we don't see either brother in Paris. Jenny Han has said she doesn't want a neat ending, and I'm reading that as Belly and Conrad may be reuniting at the wedding, but instead of tying the knot, they just decide to try again, right? Maybe even something as simple as agreeing to go on a date. I was fully convinced we were heading toward a Conrad wedding, but after seeing the cast and crew interviews, I'm not so sure anymore, y'all. And with just 2 episodes to go, the question is, how do they tie all of these threads together? And what happens when Belly and the Fishers inevitably cross paths again? Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss my breakdowns of the final 2 episodes. And I'm doing a 3rd bonus episode with some friends. So if you want to hear us spilling all the tea and giving our reactions of this entire season, make sure you subscribe for those next 3 episodes. And if you want even more theories and Easter eggs and hot takes, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Take It From Here Pod. And that's a wrap for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review. And I'll see you back here for the chaos of episode 10.